And against?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. So next item is local board input, and so we have, I think we've got a joint local board input. So welcome here in the room, John and Danielle from Kaipatiki, and then online we have the newly minted, and congratulations, Melissa, on your succession to the throne in Devonport Takapuna. Great to have you here, and also Deputy Chair Terence. So welcome, team, and all yours.
Can you all hear me? Can you hear me from here?
Yep, we can hear you. We just can't see you.
Oh, okay, that's all good. Kia ora, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou koutua. I'm Mel, the newly minted, I like that, chair of the Devonport Takapuna Local Board. I'd like to introduce my colleagues and neighbours from the Kaipatiki Local Board, elected members John Gillen and Deputy Danielle Grant, and online is also Terence Harper. We've been working closely together on flood issues for our community, and it's a real pleasure to co-present here today as two neighbouring local boards. From the outset, I'd like to make it really clear about what our position is. We are here today to advocate for a solution which mitigates all risk to life for our community members from the inevitable flood, future flooding in the future. So to tautaku what Chris was just saying, and also to the Milford community, yes, we want this to go to a business case. We want it fully tested. We don't want to wait, and the time is now. I just hand on now to, can you please change the slide?
Worried about us.
I'll pass on to John.
Thank you, Mel. Tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members, for having us here today. What you see in front of you here is the Wairau catchment that crosses both the Kaipatiki Local Board and the Devonport Takapuna Local Board. Our boundary follows the motorway right up the middle there. This is a significant catchment, and this picture shows where the water wants to go. So it flows down through a series of streams, ponds, concrete channels and pipes from Sunnysnook, Totravale, Hillcrest and Glenfield.
I'm actually going to go on the Tuesday I've decided, because I've got a meeting I have to dial into the things.
Mel, can you
so I can't slide.
Okay, so it comes down from Sunnysnook, Totravale, Hillcrest and Glenfield through Wairau Valley, from where it should go through to Milford and exit at Milford Beach. However, in high storm events, as we saw in 2023, it floods at various points, notably in the Nile Road residential area and along the Wairau Road concrete channels, where it flooded many businesses, including Pack and Save, Bunnings. It flooded major intersections and flooded AF Thomas Park. And this is because these are the natural flow paths from before the area was built up and the channels were built. And across this catchment, there have been more than 124 Category 3 properties, and we saw an earlier slide where there might be a more recent number there. Mostly in Milford, but also Totravale and Sunnysnook. And I'll hand back to Mel. The next slide, please.
Thank you again. Really, I mean, we've heard already from our Milford residents, but what happened in Wairau, we just never want to see again. Never again do I want to look in people's eyes, the victims of flood, the flood victims, and their eyes for their families, and say that I'm sorry for your loss, which is what we had to do on the night. The stories still haunt us. A family member recently told me that he rescued his elderly father in Nile Road, who was standing on his kitchen bench with only about 20 centimetres of space for air between the water and the ceiling. People lost their belongings, their wedding dresses, their photo albums, their precious things. But of course, the loss of life still hits hard for our community. We are fully in the recovery stage and continue to be in that place. Next slide, please. There is a range of emotions for what is happening in our community at the moment. It ranges from relief and even joy, of single women who have received their Category 3 buyouts and have moved out of their area. They email me that now they can sleep at night and they don't panic when it rains. It's interesting because our local board office doesn't have windows, but I can tell when it's raining because I get all these emails that come in for residents that are concerned about the rain. To people still working through their categorisation, we often have a lot of stressed people who are just in this council land processes of complexity with categorisation. And then even this week, just on Monday, I had an email from an elderly flood victim in Nile Road asking me what a categorisation process was and what a navigator does, even though her house had flooded. So we've got this range of emotions and range of processes because we still are fully in the recovery mode. Very unique to our Devonport Takapuna local board is the age of our residents. We have a higher population of aging people that live in our local board area, higher than the Auckland average. And a lot of these people were affected by the floods. So we have a unique population of people who have lost the equity in their homes. They may be considering rest homes. They've have complex issues around dementia and their health issues. And now they're facing how to recover from the flooding. What is a slap in the face for the residents is when houses continue to be built in Nile Road and flood zones. Right now, there are 7 new houses being built over the fence of a house that's being removed on a truck like the one that you can see. This makes community members really angry and very confused. Next slide, please.
So that we actually had an updated presentation with another slide in there showing a recent public meeting that Danielle's going to address.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. One of the things that the Kaipatiki Local Board would definitely like to make clear is that we are very supportive of golf. We're very supportive of active recreation and the open green space that our community very much enjoys. Kaipatiki has 30% canopy cover, and so the environment is particularly important to us. When we've been having our public meetings, and in particular our meeting at the Takapuna Golf Course, it's very clear that the interest and participation in golf is very strong in our community, and it's definitely one of the things that we have been considering over many years as we've done the local parks management plan that we started a number of years ago. One of many comments that has been made has been around how we see the future looking and the importance of golf. And when I think we've done our local board plans, we've actually continued to consider that as an important issue. What we do also know is that immediately around A.F. Thomas Reserve is significant infrastructure. We've got the North Shore Hospital, and the main road that runs past that actually runs around past the golf course. We've got the fire station, which is based in Wairau. We've got a couple of our largest high schools, Westlake Boys and Westlake Girls, immediately in the vicinity. We've got one of the cheapest supermarkets and busier supermarkets, Pack and Save, which sits virtually next door. When we look at how our community interact in a low-lying, flood-prone area, most of the time it's absolutely fine. And I think if we reflect on the summer that we've just had, it hasn't been a problem at all. But I can assure you that getting here today took much longer because everybody's jumped in their cars. The level of anxiety increases when the floods happen. I know that when I drove out of my home today, I was looking at the drains thinking, have they been cleared and what's going to happen? That anxiety that we all face is very, very real. And when we look at this area, we have to think far broader than what is just the A.F. Thomas reserve able to provide. It is what does it have to support and what is its responsibility to look after and care for the lives of a much, much larger catchment. So our residents associations, our businesses, our school community, our sport and recreation community, our golfing community, these are all of the things that we absolutely take into consideration when we try and show leadership and future planning and future direction, and the significance of us working in with Healthy Waters to actually say, what advice can you give us? What protections can be put in place? What future focus can we consider for our broader community? These are the questions we're asking.
Which leads us nicely into this slide here that shows the proposals. Of course, you've got more detail in your agenda. These are the proposals that have been put forward. So this is a series of projects across the catchment that collectively will reduce flooding in the whole catchment. And as you'll hear later, the keystone to the whole project is AF Thomas Park. There simply isn't another council property in the vicinity with the potential for holding a huge volume of water that is required. And we understand that the project here results in an approximately 30% reduction in flow downstream to Milford. Both the Kaipari Local Board and the Import Takeover Local Board passed resolutions in August 2023, so only a few months after the floods, supporting investigation of large floodwater catchment at AF Thomas Park, because we could see back then that this was going to be essential to minimise the risk of going through what we had done. And as Danielle said, I want to note that neither local board is anti-golf in any way. If there is a way to retain golf at the park, then this would be ideal. And I do want to squash also the speculation online that I've seen that we're trying to remove golf and that we might build houses or something else ridiculous here. This is a local park first and foremost, and it's protected under the Reserves Act, and it is flood prone. So doing something here appears to be the only option to ensure that we can proceed with essential work in the Nile Road area to protect the wider Milford residential area. We also support the other smaller projects that you can see on the map here that will ensure that we realise the full benefits of the changes at AF Thomas Park and Nile Road. The work to widen Wairau Road and Wairau Creek channels is also required to reduce flooding further, particularly for the Wairau Valley businesses, but we understand that this likely can't be achieved with the current funding. So essentially what I'm saying is that we support all three stages that are in your agenda, with stages 1 and 2 being the top priority, and which would be your option 3 at a minimum, and option 4 if possible. And the next slide I think shows, you've touched on this already, the North Shore Hospital. And we'll go to that one, yeah.
Thank you. So, yeah, that's the proximity to the flood zone in the North Shore Hospital. Next slide, please. So we have shared concerns. Really, it's time to make a decision. We can't wait. What we really want, as John said, is that the catchment area, which is phase 2, is really the most important to our community in terms of reducing the flooding. But both of phase 1 and phase 2 work together. So option 3 is what we're recommending. It's really important that we consider, because of the money that was taken out of the mitigation budget because of the extra houses that needed to be moved, we really need to take advantage of this opportunity, as we can't do it alone. So it's really important that we advocate for this business case so that we can get on with it, not to prevent any more time that's being wasted. We really need to get people out of the way, and so stage 1 and 2 together makes logical sense for our community. Next slide, please. The community expectations for this project are very high. They are very highly attuned to what's going on here. As you heard from our Milford residents today, we're looking for answers, we're looking for certainty, and we're looking for action. Ngā mihi nui, thank you for listening, and we'll take questions now.
Thank you. Questions, Daniel?
Thank you for the presentation. Good morning. Thank you for the presentation. Yeah, look, it's not dissimilar to a big project in my ward called Awakiri Artillery, which is obviously about flooded drainage attenuation. What I wanted to know, John, look, you persuaded me, and Danielle, thank you very much as well. In the event that we proceed with this, this will still be contentious for some. So, John, you're comfortable in your advocacy to front face the community and say that, quite frankly, there really isn't another viable solution, and there cannot be any more delay, notwithstanding any concern that people may have. You're willing to front this and say, look, we have to proceed with this if the business case stacks up.
Thank you, Councillor, for the question. So we would be looking at the advice from Healthy Waters and other staff on this, and if that is the ultimate proposal, then the local board would be voting on whether to support that or not. But at the current point in time, we've supported the investigation for this space, and we can't currently see an alternative option, but we're looking forward to the different concepts coming forward in the business case.
And further to that, we definitely acknowledge Takapuna Golf Course have put considerable work into a proposal, and we absolutely urge our Healthy Waters and Auckland Council staff to look at that and to see what opportunities that might present. We're not the engineers. I think that we need to wait for the quality response from Auckland Council with all options being on the table. But doing nothing is certainly not the option.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, I think there's a pretty constant theme emerging that no one wants to do nothing, but I guess my question, and it's a little bit of a statement of the obvious, is given the primacy of this golf course, its usage, its history in a very fast growing area that you guys know better than anyone, obviously, and we heard a plea from the presenters that they be given access to all relevant information, but obviously the local board and the community's view would be if you can make something work that preserves the golf course, then that, taking a long-term view in terms of open space and recreation, that would be absolutely vital too. No one's wanting to waste time, but you do want to make a decision that's the best decision, and if you can get one that does both, that would be the board's priority, wouldn't it?
Yes, Councillor. I think that is what I said earlier on in the presentation, so yes.
Greg?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. My question is just around if the local board has any transparency around the funding model that's associated with getting this work done, and are there any concerns or risks or otherwise that the local board might feel around bringing in an alternative model, and like can they get funded through the funders?
We definitely need quality advice from Healthy Waters and Auckland Council. So for us to really comment at this stage, we haven't received any of that advice. What we have heard in public meetings is members of Parliament, it's Simon Watts for the Northcote electorate, it's Dan Bidwar in, Dan Bidwar in Northcote, Simon Watts in North Shore. They have both shared strong commitments to work with Auckland Council for stormwater projects in AF Thomas. I don't have those details and look forward to Auckland Council and Healthy Waters investigating further and taking seriously, obviously, the proposal that's being put forward by Takapuna Golf. I think as Councillor Watson's just said, we want the best outcome for our community. We need to have everything on the table. Financially, it's difficult for council and it's difficult for central government. If we can pull those resources together, it's a great opportunity.
Wayne?
If it was likely, based on more advice that we get, that the golf course proposal is faster, conceivably much more economical from a capital perspective and an operational perspective in particular. I mean, if you assess the net present value of the cost of the detention over time, that could be considerable. Does it make sense to actually pursue that option, especially if it delivers in respect of speed? Because you're not going to have the same issues around the reserve and so on.
Thank you, Councillor, for the question, but I can't predetermine the local board's position on that.
Richard?
Thank you both, and both the local boards, for all your work during the floods and the time since. It's been intense, additional. It almost was full-time over our normal jobs, especially for that first year, and the difficulty of working with households and families who we weren't able to get buyouts or weren't able to get, there's a lot of people who are in dire situations that we can't buy out or don't fit and that's been tough on everyone. I'll go to Mal first, or Terence, because Kaipataki's been asking the questions, but our understanding is Crown have approved this proposal to go forward as business case, and although Councillor Baker and I have worked on a resolution to say that the golf plan needs to be investigated, we still need to make the decision to move forward on this, otherwise we may lose the funding. I just want to check with both local boards that you're definitely endorsing what is in the plan and everything that comes with that, no matter how hard it's going to be for us working with all parts of our community, with the proviso that also we will investigate, because I know there has been a lot of options investigated. But Mel first, and then the local board, and I've got another question.
Yeah, kia ora, Richard. Thank you for that. Of course, we really want to work together with our community. We're not opposed to having difficult questions and difficult conversations posed to us. We want to engage in the conversation. That's really important for everybody to have their voice heard. But collectively, we're going to need to make a decision around the way forward. I think this business case is an important process for us all to have that, and is quite urgent.
Yeah, if you don't answer that question as well.
Oh, exactly. Mel spoke very well then. That's exactly what she said.
And just for Kaipataki specifically, because the decision making for what goes on your reserves, whether there's flood mitigation or not when leases expire, just want to go through exactly that is your board's decision, not this committee's decision, and that you'll be, I assume, working through a process if this project goes ahead or not of what goes on there. It's not up for us to decide.
Yes, so A.F. Thomas Park is a local park. It comes under the local board jurisdiction. Currently, as was mentioned earlier, the lease for the golf course has expired, but we're rolling it over on a month-by-month basis. We felt it would be improper to renew that while there's a question mark over the land, and we're going through this process at the moment. So at some point we will be making a decision on lease of the land, but we need to get through this first. But absolutely, it's a local board decision. And
the last question, because it sort of isn't in the agenda, but on those resolutions that both boards passed unanimously, you did request specifically that Healthy Waters look to A.F. Thomas, and I believe at the time Healthy Waters weren't sure if that was a goer and were looking at other...
I've got the resolutions here if you'd like me to read them out. So in August 2023, Kaipataki Local Board said, we request urgent investigation into the creation of a large floodwater catchment in the golf course area of A.F. Thomas Park to reduce the significant flooding impacts as seen recently, noting that the current golf course lease expires in February 2025. We also note the support for this initiative by the Devonport Takapuna Local Board, and what they said about a week earlier was, we support the creation of a large floodwater catchment in the Takapuna golf course to reduce the significant flooding impacts as seen recently, noting that the golf course lease expires in 2025.
Thank you.
Can I just say one thing there too, just in response, is that we were looking for solutions. When we passed that in 2023, we were looking for options. We needed to think about all things that were coming up in the future. So the reason that we passed that resolution around the lease was so that we had options for how do we come up with a solution, because knowing that things take a long time. So that was really the genesis of that decision.
And obviously an immediate response to the floods in February of 23 and the loss of life and moving our way through the categorisation process. So it has been a very fraught couple of years for everyone.
Thank you. Chris?
It's been very difficult in the ward that I'm representing, and I'm sure it's the same on the shore, where people have been really impacted by the floods, but they continue to see houses sprouting up in areas that we know are flood prone. And it's very difficult for the local board and for the ward councillors to be able to explain that. And I think that it's where local government looks in disarray when those sort of things happen. I'm therefore heartened that in the responses we've heard from the local boards today, that you are utterly committed to that same process, to moving towards the business case, not being in any way distracted by any other noise that might be around. Is there anything that you could put to us that we have overlooked before? There will be other considerations later on in the agenda.
I think you'll get a unanimous yes from us.
It's very reassuring. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There's no further questions, and so I just want to thank you two for coming in across the bridge today and being here in person, and to Mel and Terence for being online. Great input, Terence. But no, really good to have you here, and keep doing what you do. You know, you're there to be leaders in your community and to be fighters and challenge, and so continue to do that. Well done. Chris Jr. is going to move, and Richard is going to second. The vote of thanks. Those in favour say aye. And against, carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, team.